Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is to all the YouTube people out there. This is Sheldon Thomas. I'm launching my new Regulated Man series that's going to be um, coming out over the next few months on a weekly basis. And just to get everything started, I'm just going to kind of lay the foundations. The scripture that I'm using is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything we do flows from it. So I hope that kind of has some meaning to you. So that's the kind of scripture that I'm using. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. That's the scripture I'll be using all the way through. This is not to say that this is just a Christian platform, because it is not. It's a platform for men, because I've realized in my journey and the work that I've been doing with gangs and all of that across the world, there's not a lot of platform for men to really talk about serious issues within their lives. And I I believe I've been called by God. I believe that to be true because I was called to deal with gangs. But let me not go into that right now. Let me just go into a little bit about why I feel that this is the right time for me to now come out and start starting these serious conversations, because our strap line is real men, real lives, real talk. Yeah. So that little last part was in a Jamaican accent. Anyway, but for those who don't know me at all, because I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, I do a lot of stuff on Substack. I've written a book, my second book actually. The first book was for foster carers. So I'm a writer, author sort of thing. And I also did a lot of work with local government, central government, law enforcement agencies and so forth. But I'll talk about those things as the series goes on. What I'm here to do is to say why I'm doing it. And the reason why I'm doing it is I grew up in a household where there was no love. I'm going to be real with you. I had both my parents, and it was as if they weren't there, you know. But we didn't know that they were growing. They grew up in survival mode in colonial Jamaica. See, we didn't know that. We were children, You're born in the 60s. You don't know why you don't feel a sense of love, or you don't feel like you're wanted. Now, over the coming weeks, I'll tell you some of the stuff that went on, but I won't go into that right now because this is just an introduction as to why I'm doing this. And I realized, as the work that I was doing with gangs and organized crime groups, I began to realize a lot of those men were coming from the same similar background. No love. Most of them didn't even have any dads. I don't think, in the times that I've dealt with the thousands of gang members, I don't think I went into at least 80% of their homes where there was a father figure. Most of them had no dads. I think 20 or less than 20% had dads. What I've realized, this is not just sort of exclusive to gangs. I've realized that a lot of children, a lot of young men and women are literally growing up where there is no fathers in the house. So that means there's a problem here. It isn't just amongst criminals. There's an actual problem. And this is when I began to realize that there's actually a correlation between men across the world who grow up in a certain way, and because they didn't deal with those trauma, and there's no platform for them to deal with it, they bring it into their adult life, like what I done. I done that. I grew up in a hostile environment. I would call it a military boot camp. And I was just searching out, so I had to get out. You understand? So I began to act out. Do you see what I'm saying? I began to act out in school and beating people up and anything that would not get me to go back home. And obviously one thing led to another. And we grew up under a kind of colonial regime in the 70s in England, which was really hostile. And so we grew up in that kind of hostile environment, which meant a lot of my age group was searching for who they were, because we didn't fit in it. And some of us didn't fit into our homes. Not all of us, but a lot of us didn't as men. So we went out. And I'll give you an example of what happened to me. Sound systems. I owned a sound We had big sound dances. Of those sound dances, we had gang-related violence that linked into the dance. So many people died. Some of my friends died. I got shot at. Then I joined the Rastafarian movement, go back to Africa. I joined that. Then I joined the Nation of Islam, pro-black, anti-white. Then I joined the Pan-African movement, looked at the economic crisis amongst the black people in Africa and the Caribbean and amongst us here in Britain. And I began to do so many different things. I didn't even know who I was. So I was just going from one thing to another, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, eating non-stop. Oh, lots of things I did. And guess what? When I did find what I identified with, which was Christ, I carried a lot of those issues when I got saved. See, I thought when you got saved, I really did. I thought when you got saved that, you're going to change. Wow, it's going to be this change. You're going to be a completely different person. That's what I thought. So when I got saved, I was like, wow, okay, I'm saved now. Boom. But it wasn't to be, because I had a lot of struggles that didn't go. Yes, I stopped smoking weed for about 18 years. Yes, definitely. But a lot of my behaviors didn't change. A lot of my gang mentality didn't change. A lot of my anger, pride, ego, I was all about money. I was all about expensive clothes. I was wearing clothes back in the 80s that a lot of people couldn't afford to get. And I was doing it by checkbook and card. In other words, stolen checkbook and card, I was doing things back then because I wanted to show off to the world. Why? Because I was running away from the pain, the hurt that was on the inside of me. I was in pain. I wasn't a bad man. I weren't really a Rasta. I was trying to run because I didn't want to deal with the trauma and pain that I grew up with in an emotionless household. A household where you couldn't even have fun. You couldn't even walk up the stairs without your dad terrorizing you because he thought the world had ended because we ran up the stairs as children. So these are the things I want us to talk about as men. And I'm not talking about this from a gang's perspective, because I'm talking about from a human being perspective, that we have to address this as men, because we can't continue to carry pain inside of us. Because what happens is you'll end up like what happened to me, with nothing. I had a thriving business. I had a relationship. I had money, a nice car. I've got none of it. And if you can look at my backdrop now, I don't have my lighting. That's gone. My tripod, my expensive tripod, gone. My cameras, everything I had is gone. Because I didn't deal with issues as a Christian growing up in a household. And this is not a Christian platform. I'm just saying that's what happens when you don't deal with issues. It comes out when you become an adult worse than when you're a child. Do you know, I've gone into prison because I deliver work for different prisons. And you wouldn't believe we've got men who are 67 in prison, been in and out, because they've never been in a position to deal with their past pains. Never. There's no platform out there, and I wouldn't say none, I would say that there's not a lot of platforms out there that are specifically dealing with issues of trauma, emotional pain, emotional stagnation, lack of emotional growth. Some of these guys in prison who are 60 odd and 50 odd, they're still like 20 years old in their mindset. They haven't developed. They still got a 20-year-old mindset of the road. And I'm not saying that for all men, because even in corporate, we've got men in executive positions who have got past hurts. And what they do, they dive into work so they don't come back home. Everything's about the business. It's about making sure they get that $1 billion deal. And so we're not talking about gangs or violent men. We're talking about men across the board who have struggles, and what they do is escape. There's different forms. There's, they escape using lust. They escape using cigarettes, alcohol, drugs. They escape by staying in work, working every hour under the sun, make the money, drive the car, and so they are stressed out. The suicide rate has risen both here in the UK and in the US. Look at the facts. Because men are stressing themselves out. Why? Because we're not taking the time to know who we are. Where do we belong? What are we about? We don't take the time to identify the pain within us. Do you know, I always say to men, like, do you reflect? They'll be like, what are you talking about? I've had, even women, they don't even know what that is. A lot of women don't even reflect. A lot of men don't reflect. They just get on with their day. I've been reflecting since I came out of gangs because I realised I can't live like that. I've got 4 children. I can't fight, well, 5 children to be honest. You know, one is not exactly mine, but you know, I've taken her on board when she was young. But all of my children are grown. But it's not the point. The point is that if you don't reflect, you don't sit down and every day you come and you say, what could I have done better? What's inside of me that is stopping me from doing X, Y, and Z? These are the things that we've got to start thinking about. And this is what regulated man is about. Regulated man is about putting those challenges out there. That's what it's about. It's about not only putting those challenges out there, but it's getting men to sit down and take stock and say, you know what? Let's talk about these issues. And we're not going to talk about particular subjects. We're going to hit on things that's happening to us right now as men across the world. El Salvador, Honduras, Trinidad, South Africa, Nigeria, you know, America, Canada. We're going to be looking at things where whatever is happening in the world around men and young men, we're going to address those in these programs as well, because we're not rigid. We're not just going to stick it to pride and pain and trauma and never gotten with my mum, my dad wasn't there. We're not going to just stick it to that. We're going to look at economic crisis. We're going to look at the artificial intelligence technology world. We're going to look at the robotics world. We're going to start looking at things that as men we don't really get to do because there's no platforms out there. This is going to be the platform. Bring it. There's a seat at the table for anyone. Bring that. That's what this is going to be about. That's what's going to make this so exciting. I'm very excited about it myself personally, because when I was young, I wish there was something like this, but there wasn't. So I made mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. But now, because of the mistake I've made recently, I've now been getting back up. I mean, obviously, I'm a Christian, so God is raising me back up. But the point is that do we all have to fall to the precipice in order to get back up? Or can we learn from each other? Can we learn? Can we begin to learn? Don't let pride get in your way. Join me. Don't let ego get in the way. Join me. Because that's what this is about. Real men, real lives, real talk. That's what this is about. So anybody, come, take part, make comments. If you don't like what I'm saying, fine, write it down. I'm happy to hear from it, because I know that I'm on the right path. I've done a lot of work with gangs across the world. I'm well known across the world. I'm an international speaker on gangs. I'm a part-time lecturer. I've lectured in the top universities across this country in the UK. I've done that. But the time has come for me to be specifically helping men of all races, of all generations, of all backgrounds. So feel free. This is going to be a weekly YouTube experience. I really hope that you will come and join me. As I said, I've lost all my equipment. It looks really basic here. It don't look right. It don't look like a studio. And, you know, bear with me. In the coming weeks, hopefully, I'm hoping that things will get better. But I've lost everything, okay? And I'm glad so you can see it for yourself, that you'll be able to see the journey as I'm going along, as things get better. So join me. I really welcome everyone. I'm hoping that this resonated with you, so to speak. I'm excited. I hope you are too. And I hope to see you next week. I will put it out the day before to say it's coming, join in, you know. As I said before, it's an important thing now. We have to look at the fact that, you know, if we're going to continue to be unregulated, we're no use to our family. Stay blessed.